Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the Smart Nation Together learning channel. Today, we are doing this series called the Data and You, and the title of the webinar today will be What is Data Science and How It Will Impact Your Daily Work. So my name is Amber. I'm from Smart Nation and Digital Government Office. Today's webinar is by the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office and Dataiku under the Smart Nation Together channel, which is an online learning platform featuring tech-related talks for kids, working adults, and seniors. So if you will Smart Nation Together channel, please do subscribe to our Telegram. So there is a QR code for you to scan, and you can actually join us to know of our upcoming event. So today's session will be from 12:30 to 1:15, and the session will be recorded. So we would like to make this session as engaging as possible. Please feel free to ask questions through the Q&A function at any time. And Matt, which is our speaker today, will address them at the end of the session. So without further ado, I will now hand over to Matthieu Scordia, which is the lead data scientist at Dataiku. So Matt, now over to you. So you can actually just, video, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to give this talk, and I'd like to thank Amber and Smart Nation for having me today. So my name is Matt, and I'm a data scientist. I've been working at Dataiku for 7 years. Dataiku is a software editor that builds a data science platform that we call Data Science Studio. And as a data scientist, my job is to help Dataiku's customers to build their projects. So I'm a consultant, and so far I have had the luck of working with more than 40 customers. And before joining Dataiku, I did a master's degree in artificial intelligence, and I moved to Singapore last year, and I love it. So I was looking at the news to prepare this presentation, and I found this. Singapore hopes AI will help boost its tourism industry. How? So they say that they will use algorithm to speed up the booking process and to automate expense reporting. I also found this, AI drones can improve Singapore building inspection times by 70%. They can fly autonomously and takes videos. And also this, it says that from this year, all students joining the Institute of Technical Education must take a module in the basic of artificial intelligence in their first year of study. So AI seems to be very trendy, but it seems also maybe for you a bit mysterious. So the goal of this talk is really to demystify this together. So when we talk about AI, we can actually talk about many different things. The goal of AI is to create systems that can function intelligently and independently. The easiest way to think about artificial intelligence is in the context of a human. Humans, for example, can learn from examples. This is the field of machine learning. A human can speak and listen to communicate through languages. This is the field of NLP, or speech recognition. A human can see with their eyes. So this is the field that we call computer vision. And also a human can understand their environments and move around. This is the field of robotics. Okay, so if you are in Singapore, maybe you have seen this one. It's called LionBot, and it's a cleaning robot that can speak to ask you to move if you are on their way. And here on the right, you have a Spot and Atlas, two robots from Boston Dynamics, a US company. So Spot is like um, a dog. It can walk, climb stairs, and understand the surrounding environments thanks to AI. And Atlas, on his side, is one of the most impressive robots you could see. He can run, he can even do a backflip. Uh, you can find a lot of videos of him online. So those types of robots now use a technique that is called reinforcement learning. And the robot is going to do an action and gets a reward or a penalty for the action, and if it's good or not. And so you have an algorithm to maximize the total reward. Computer vision is the field that deals with how computer can understand images and videos to detect and classify objects. Here, for example, you can see on this picture that we can automatically detect the cars, the street, the building, and on um, on the other one picture, you can see that we can identify a face, and it's when you use, for example, a filter on Instagram or Snapchat. So it uses computer vision to do this. Then you have what we call NLP, natural language processing and speech recognition. So with these techniques, you can understand the language, but also the sentence structure to understand that you have a verb and you can understand how the sentence is made. So if you use Siri, Alexa, and Google, the speech is translated to text and the meaning is extracted and converted to an action. So all those fields have made huge progress in the past 10 years with something that we call deep learning. The idea of deep learning is to replicate the human brain using neural networks. We say it is deep because it has several layers of neurons, and each layers contributes of learning some pattern from the inputs to help to identify objects and cars or sentences. Deep learning is really efficient when the input is structured, like the pixel of an image. But for all of this, robots, vision, speech, you are going to tell me that maybe it doesn't apply to your job and maybe you don't need it. And actually, you are right, because when the data is simple, like tabular data, like the one you use daily at work, maybe it would be overkill to use deep learning algorithm. So for this, we will use instead machine learning. Machine learning is the process where you are going to teach a machine to learn from examples. So you show them a lot of examples and you tell it what it is. And when you are going to show a new example, never seen before, the machine will classify it for you. So think now about all the repetitive tasks you do every month, like updating a budget for next year, or updating a dashboard, or consolidating reporting from several files. That's when data science come and can change your daily work life. Okay, so let's explain what exactly is data science. Is it AI? Is it only machine learning? Actually, data science uses data and science and modelization techniques to solve a business problem. It's also how you are going to extract the value from the data. So if you know how to use Excel, you have already completed the data science level 1. Let's try now to see how we could go further and see how it works concretely. First, you need a business question you are going to translate into a data science task. So for example, how many products I'm going to sell this year, or how many customers are going to unsubscribe from my services next month. In machine learning, we call target the thing we want to predict. So in the example of how many customers are going to unsubscribe from my services next month, I'm going to take an history of my CRM data, and I'm going to add a new column, which is 1 if the customer unsubscribe and 0 if not. Then you need to have some data. So it seems obvious, but sometimes I realize that some customers don't have any. So to get some data, depending on your business, you can use a sensor, a cookie on your website to generate the log of the page views, or maybe a loyalty card to track your customers in your store or online. And then you need to store the data. So it can be on a USB key, a hard drive, a database, on the cloud, or in a data center, depending on the size of the data, of course. Then you may have to clean the data because raw data is rarely used as it is. So you may want to sort the data, to combine it, to organize it. And also, you may also have some outliers or anomalies that you want to clean. So it can be an important step, and it's often a step that takes a lot of time. Then we have a step we call feature engineering. So it's in this step that you are going to use your business knowledge and your creativity to make from the raw data new indicators, new features. For example, suppose you have access to all the transactions of your customers. In that case, you may want to extract the average basket amount of each customer, the time between two transactions, the ratio of products they buy from each category of products. So from a list of events, you switch it to a list of metrics about your customers. And doing this, it will help the algorithm to have access directly to the hidden feature in the data, to the hidden information. So then come what we call the modeling part, where you are going to use machine learning algorithm to make some predictions. Actually, at this step, usually you have already done 80% of the project. So you are going to try algorithm to get the best possible results. But to do this, you need to follow a methodology. And actually, it's a scientific methodology. you are going to run experiments on the data, a lot of experiments, like in biology classes at school, where you modify parameters and you analyze the effect. And you try to understand what modification is working and what modification is useless. So to do this, you need to follow a strict protocol. The first thing you need to do is to keep aside a part of the data that we call a test set. Testing data is not going to be used during the experiments, only at the end to check the score and to validate it. You may want also to keep a validation set if you run a grid search to tune those parameters. Okay, so then for each experiment, you will modify some parameters and you want to track the effectiveness of each modification. So some modifications are going to decrease the performance of the model, but some also are going to increase it. So you want to find the optimal combination of all the parameters you can play with. Okay, so here what you see is a 2D image, but actually you can have maybe hundreds of parameters to tune. So it's not as easy as looking at this, okay? And actually, there is a trap. If you have too many parameters, the complexity of the model will increase, and so the risk of overfitting. Overfitting is when you've learned so well your training data that you don't make any more mistake on it. But the issue is that when you give new data to predict, the model won't be able to generalize. So you are going to make a lot of mistakes on the testing data, the part you have kept aside. So you need to be able to track the error on the test set to find the best model. And then, you can now deploy the model and automate all of this process. So from the raw data to the prediction, and build an application for your company to leverage it. By making it accessible to everyone, it's where you are going to extract a lot of value. So to answer how it will impact your daily work, here are some takeaways on things you can adopt. First, maybe you can do less Excel sheet and use more interactive tools like Dataiku, Alteryx, or Data Robot. Maybe also you can do less copy pasting and start to automate all of the processes. You can also have less dependence to your IT and be more and have more autonomy. So I think it's also important to be inclusive, because if you think about it, data scientists are only 1% of the people of the company. So, so and it's not only the data scientists who have to do the data science project. Everyone need to participate. Actually, it's a teamwork. So if you think about it, maybe a business analyst, he knows the business problem very well, so they can participate in the data preparation if they have the tools. The data scientist, of course, he can build the machine learning, Maybe also you have in your team what we call an analytics leader or a manager to validate each steps of the project. And also maybe someone that we call a data engineer that will help you to deploy the project in production. So at Dataiku, we think that the secret sauce is to have those concepts implemented in your company. Those two concepts are operationalization. So as it is a very big word, we prefer to say O16N because it starts with the O, ends with the N, and you have 16 letters in it. And another one is called self-service analytics. So with self-service analytics, everyone will have access to the data and can start a small project to answer his own question. So it's how you create a data-driven company. And with O16N, you deploy model after model in production, application after application, and you generate a big return on investments. So you need to have both in your company to be able to extract as much as possible of the value of the data. So that's what we like to call the path to enterprise AI, and why at Dataiku we sell a tool to help to manipulate the data, but also a vision of the company of tomorrow, from the data science day 0 to the enterprise AI. So now I want to show you a very short demonstration of what I just explained and all the steps of a data science project. So I'm going to show you this with this. So here it's a workflow I have made inside of Dataiku. So inside of this workflow, each blue square is a dataset, and between each dataset, you have something that we call a recipe. It's a process to modify and manipulate the data. So here you have all the key steps of a data science project. The first thing that you are going to do is to import and to connect to a data set or a database. And then you are going to load the data to join the data. Here, this part is what we call the feature engineering. And then here I can split the data into a train set and a test set. And here in green, I have access to the machine learning models to predict here, in this case, if a transaction is a fraud or not. So if we look at the machine learning model, you will see that inside of the platform, we have implemented all the methodology to be able to select what is the target, how you split the train and the test for the evaluation, which feature I'm going to add or not inside of the model, and what algorithm I want to use. And so here I can specify those parameters I was talking about. So here, for example, for the maximum depth of a trees, I can specify 3, 6, and 12. And so I will run experiments to try all of those parameters and try to find which parameters are working well. And so at the end here, I can have access to all the session. So each session is a run of experiments, and I will be able to compare those sessions and to see which session give me the best score. So here, for example, in this one, the best one was the XGBoost. And then I have access to a lot of screen to try to understand what is the performance of the model, what are the best features I use, and so on. And once I have done this process of experimenting and analyzing, I can just deploy this model inside of the workflow and automate this workflow to make it run every day. And so now each time a new transaction is coming, I'm able to do a prediction with this algorithm to say if it's a fraud or if it's not a fraud. And so I can imagine that if I think it's a fraud, maybe I will send an OTP to make sure that I add a new validation steps to be sure that I'm not going to send money to a fraud system. So that's it for my presentation. I hope you like it.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so now we will, thank you, Matt, for the sharing. So now we will move on to Q&A. So please feel free to input your question to the Q&A function here. We have one question, whether the slides will be available for download. So what happened is that we will be sharing the slides PDF together with our survey after the event, so it will be sent by email. So is there any questions from the floor? We can actually, Matt will be here for a while to actually take questions. So let's say if you would rather be verbalize the question, do let me know, then I can actually allow you to talk. That is your preferred mode. So maybe we'll give it a while for them to maybe just process the sharing, and okay. We will let them ask some questions if there is any. Okay. Okay, so if there is none, but if you have any questions that you thought of after the webinar, you can feel free to write into Smart Nation Ambassador, the email that you have received a confirmation. You could actually respond to the email if you have any burning questions. So I will direct to Matt the questions that you might have. All right. So if there is no further question, then without further ado, let's give thanks to Matt again for the sharing today. And if you have any questions, please help us to do the survey as well, which we'll be sending after the event together with the slides. So thank you once again, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. And please do keep a lookout of our upcoming event that will be happening. You can actually find out more about the updates through our Facebook page at Smart Nation and Digital Government Office. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.